thank you for my invitation. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you some of the first results of my work concerning archaeology of Second World War in the area of South Moravia. South Moravia is eastern part of Czech Republic. First, I'll talk briefly about Festung Brünn and the city of Brno itself. Brno, or Brünn in German, is the capital city of region of South Moravia. For German, it was important resource of railways and important industry center. Especially significant was an arms industry. For that reason, it was fortified by German army at the end of the war. This fortification, instead of field fortifications, managed to turn Brno into unconquerable Festung Brünn. There are two reasons why I have focused on Festung Brünn, whereas both have played the same role. First, several rescue excavations have unearthed several hundred meters of trenches, making the whole fortification system one of the finest examples of excavated fortifications in the Czech Republic. Second, in the last year, Czech Office for Surveying, Mapping and Cadastre have published historical photos from 1940s, which at least partly depicts an area of Brno and its surrounding. Now I am going to briefly talk about history. Trenches around Brno were dug because of two reasons. At first, they started to be prepared during December 1944, when front line was closing near to the area of Czech Republic. Those are the trenches which constituted Festung Brünn. However, several trenches on the northern border of the city were dug at the end of April 1945, when the front stopped here for several days. This break in fighting allowed to build trenches here. Liberation of region of Morava and Brno is connected to Bratislava-Brno operation, which aimed to conquer the whole area of South Slovakia and South Moravia. You can see events of the front here. Whole operation started on 25th March at the Brno River in North Slovakia and reached Moravia on 5th April. Brno was seized after heavy fights on 26 April 1945. However, Festung Brünn was not much used during these fights. Despite the fact that historians often mention fortifications around Brno, nobody knows the precise implication and extent of it. As far as we know, there are no historical sources regarding it. For a long time, we only knew that trenches were somewhere around Brno, and that several thousand men from mostly boys and men from Bohemia were digging it. We also don't know how the defense was planned. For example, whether the Germans exploited the landscape, or if they were able to fortify the whole area around the city, or if they focused on several resistance nests. To these questions, digital archaeology could bring answers. In this work, the results of excavations, aerial photogrammetry, LiDAR, and spatial analysis will be presented. However, results will be shown only on several examples. There is not much to say about excavations. So far, only rescue excavations have unearthed remains in trenches. There has not been an intentional excavation of trench. Therefore, excavation methods that have been used have been only sampling. Several sections, like here, have been excavated. Large parts of trenches have been only mapped via GPS, with GPS. Despite this fact, these excavations help us to find some trenches which were not photographed, or confirm interpretation of crop marks, or even provide more detailed insight to the reconstructions. Like, for example, they can document fire steps which are not seen in the aerial images. we may distinguish two main categories within the aerial photographs: contemporary and aerial photographs. Contemporary images could be found on web-based photo maps, which could be found on Google Maps or their Czech variation Mapy.cz. These photos are useful for observation of actual built-up area, which show us the destruction of trenches. However, crop marks or even preserved trenches can be rarely found on these images. Historical aerial photographs are the most important source of the data. Thanks to work of Czech Office of Surveying and Mapping Cadastre, we can use historical images from the years 1946, 1947, 1948, and 1953. Our only photographs from 1953 depicts the whole area of Brno. The former photographs depicts only parts of the city, as we may see on the map, especially southwest border of the city and east and south of the city. On the other hand, these photographs have better resolution than those from 1953, and they were taken soon after the war, when more trenches were still preserved. Generally speaking, the survey started from close proximity to sites north next to excavations, then it continued to cover the whole area of Brno. The last chart represents LiDAR, or aerial laser scanning. Thanks to laser scanning, we have the fifth generation of the street terrain model in Czech Republic, which uses triangulated irregular network with 2-meter resolution. In case of favorable conditions, LiDAR can detect swelling trench. However, LiDAR is useful especially because of the mentioned digital terrain model, which have been used for spatial analysis. All available data have been gathered in ArcGIS software, which have been used for further processing. At first, the data from excavations have been uploaded in the form of shapefile polyline. Then all the photos and digital elevation models, which depict trenches, have been uploaded, and then two shapefiles have been created. First one has been used for digitalization of unquestionable trenches. This means the trenches which were either preserved at the time when photographs was taken, or crop of trenches which have been confirmed by excavation. The second one, shapefile, have been used for digitalization of uncertain trenches, thus trenches which are known only in form of crop marks. Also, the extent of former Brno in certain villages have been analyzed. The aerial images from 1953, which depicts whole city, have been used for digitalization. However, if there were trenches nearby the built-up area, and if there is older photograph available, this older image have been used instead. Here we can see an example of digitalization of part of the trench system. On the output map, the colors combine different state of preservation or source data. Red trenches here were registered during excavation. Here is a plan from excavation. Yellow trenches can be found on LiDAR, and therefore they are preserved nowadays. They are here and hopefully seen here a little bit. Brown trenches were preserved when historical photo was taken, like here and say here. And the green trenches were documented thanks to bookmarks on those photographs. Spatial analysis, at this moment, spatial analysis help us to determine the relation between trenches and landscape. So they can determine the combat value of this fortification. Especially two spatial analyses have been used. Slope, which supports digital elevation model in landscape analysis, and view shed, which can show us what defenders could see from trenches. several offsets of different heights of observer and target have been tested. Here you can see the whole fortified area around the city of Brno. There have been around 1,400 meters of trenches registered during excavations. Almost 1.5 kilometer of trench is preserved nowadays. It's here, partly here and here. Historical photographs that it's more than 13 kilometers. 5,050 meters were preserved at the time when photos were taken. So overall length of documented trenches is more than 15 kilometers. We may see that especially south edge of city was heavily fortified. There are at least 2 lines of trenches. Perhaps here too. From this direction, the Germans were expected the Russian attack. Further, I will talk especially about several parts of this fortification, about trenches on southeast, south, southwest, east, and northwest of the city. Here only 2 examples which illustrate trench. On left image you can see trench which is known thanks to crop marks on contemporary photo, or better say on orthophoto from 2006, and on historical photo from 1953. On right, there is example of preserved trenches which are visible on LiDAR, still part here, for example, here, and are also well photographed on aerial image from 1953. I will demonstrate the results of spatial analysis on slightly larger fortified areas. We can see that Germans tried to exploit the landscape, thus they stated the fortification on hills and along the stone. You may see it especially here are trenches on the slope, or here on the ridge. If possible, those trenches were dug on top of steep slopes. Again, you may see it here, or here, and here. Another example is on the left. Again, trenches situated in let's say, hilly area north of Brno. However, there are no suitable hills south of Brno, as you can see on the right. So, at the place of lowest elevation, the trenches were dug in front of civilian buildings. This is a different places here and here. Perhaps the trenches were built here to make observation difficult. You should show us that really large areas could be observed from trenches. For creation of the one we can see, only trenches from aerial photographs were used. The height of the target has been set to 1.8 meters, and you may see that really Germans could observe really large area in front of the trenches. Although we can compare visibilities of trenches with each other. As you can see on the left and on the middle image, These trenches could be seen from one to the other. Special trenches on the southeast border of Brno had clear view on other trenches east or south of Brno. We can say something similar about the trenches east of Brno, which could observe small valley here to the trenches which are, let's say, part of southeast fortification. We should help us also to determine the role of some trenches. For example, the fortification of the northwest edge of city. Brno is here. This fortification should protect this direction from encirclement because here the area which could be seen was supposed to become German highway. Although it was not finished, still it could make a great approach to the city and encircle it. And I think that's the reason why there are trenches here. This slide shows us that very large parts of Festung Brünn have been disturbed recently due to the construction works. We may suppose that there is nothing left of the trenches south and southeast of Brno. You may see highways or buildings that are on spots where trenches have been. So we may. To conclude, this work shows us that Festung Brünn was an extensive fortified system which was very planned. Also, we may suppose that large parts of it are probably destroyed. So these photos are one of, or perhaps only one option how we can reconstruct this fortification. However, we are still at the beginning of the survey. This first application, these methods under relics in Czech Republic. This work shows great potential of historical aerial photographs, which is by the fact they were taken several years after the war. It looks large fortified areas. Special analyses are suitable for the evaluation of location of fortification and their combat value. Work is still at the beginning. We may continue to analyze these trenches more depth. So that's all. Thank you for your attention.